to the Java Energy Hour. My name is Gabriel. I'm here with Curious Sports Apex, and my dog is going crazy. But there is a lot to get to today, and we're not going to focus on last night's game in the NBA. Instead, there's so much to talk about with what's going on in the WNBA and with Caitlin Clark and Charles Barkley and everything and what LeBron James has been saying as of late. And specifically, I want to talk and I want to position you in terms of how Caitlin Clark is being discussed, the discourse among WNBA players and supporters in general, and how there's a lot of nuance lacking in the current conversation with her. And what do I mean by that? She's getting praise, she's getting credit for something that's been in for some things that have been in the works for a while. And on the flip side, she's also being blamed for stuff that is completely out of her control. So we're gonna offer a nice nuanced take, but first, couple other things we want to touch on before that. Again, you're here with the Java Energy Hour. Follow us on Twitter at SportsPulse100. This is Curious Sports Pulse. We are the number one show that says that they'll last an hour, but it'll probably be closer to 30 minutes. But that doesn't sound as catchy as the Java Energy Hour, right? What were we going to name the show? The Java Energy 20 minutes? The 20-minute segment of the Java Energy Hour, right? You see how that was a non-starter. But anyway, let's forget all that. Let's forget about the name. Let's first focus on inside the NBA. Now, there's a lot going on with the potential deals, with the potential changes that are coming in the media landscape. And the number one potential, we'll say victim for lack of a better word. Speaking of a victim, anyone who listens to the show, shout out to Chris. Appreciate you tuning in this morning. He says the espresso. Yeah, I couldn't. Again, coffee has always been a huge part of my life. I started drinking since I was 5 years old. Again, my senior superlative was most likely to run around the world with a cup of coffee, and it's a morning show. So what do you want me to do? But so maybe it could have been the espresso energy hour. I don't know, but for now it's the Java energy hour. But back to the point that I was saying. Also, good morning, Chris. Good morning, Chris. Everyone loves inside the NBA. They provide something in sports media and media in general that is something of a rarity, and that is an authentic voice, an opinion that isn't completely scripted, something that you feel like you could be a part of that conversation. Now, there's plenty to criticize about what what the three main co-hosts say. Not so much about what Ernie says. I mean, most people give him credit for trying to keep everything kind of together, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. And again, we'll speak on what Charles Barkley specifically said about Caitlin Clark here in a moment. But when they speak, one rarely gets the sense that it's just for clicks. Instead, in the moment, it always feels like that's what they truly believe. Now, there are times, and it's been well documented by them. So, what's the source of them? That they aren't necessarily always the best or most reliable person to speak on a certain subject, particularly NBA games that they have openly admitted that they just don't watch or don't have an interest in. So, I've described in the past inside the NBA as tuned in as a casual possibly could be. Now they have veteran experience, so this allows them to not necessarily need to watch every game or necessarily even care about whatever the given topic is. But that's not why people enjoy and why people would potentially miss inside the NBA anyway. It's just three friends talking basketball. And we love especially kind of the more off the cuff marks and how they play off each other. And within the moment, especially when the show takes a more serious turn, especially when the show is more serious in nature for any given segment, you know that it's from the heart. Now, I think Charles Barkley, I think overall, the place he's coming from, I think, is a decent one. Like, I don't want to criticize his motivation. I can't speak to that, but I think he's missing the boat on a couple key aspects. And again, we'll speak more on that in a moment. But but what is missing in and what would be missed if inside the NBA can't be there any longer is that sense of authenticity, that sense of, all right, this is someone who I want to tune into. This is someone who I enjoy listening to. And again, it's not necessarily about are they watching the games? They aren't. And I mean, now that it's the playoffs, especially with one game a night, they are, of course. But it's like I said, I loved it where Charles will just literally say, "Why are we watching these fools? I didn't watch that game. I don't know." And that's part of what we love about inside the NBA. Moment to moment, it's real, and you know that what they're saying isn't just for clout or credibility. In fact, they don't really care about that aspect at all. So that is something that would be dearly missed, and I hope whatever happens with TNT, Turner Sports, probably Disney, whoever is involved, I just hope that they find a way to keep this cast together. Chris goes on to say, "It's your show, just my opinions. What's up, y'all?" Oh no, no, no. Yeah. So here's the thing with that. First of all, I am very bad in terms of visual arts slash graphic arts. So so you are witnessing the cumulative effect of me struggling for 4 or 5 days. I will acknowledge it's not good, and if anyone has the time or willingness to provide a better graphic on anything on either the website or what I have, I will be more than willing to give it a listen. My my prior statement was solely on the it's called the Java Energy Hour, and I can already hear some people saying, "Well, that idea's been taken," or that I know a show of a similar name by that. And I just want to say I've been on the forefront, at least relative to my lifespan, of coffee. I have been a fan of coffee. I've been a consumer of coffee since the age of 5. I'm currently 27, about to go on 28. And it's not that unique of a concept for a morning show to have coffee slash good morning as part of your morning show premise. So that's all I'm speaking to. That's all I'm speaking to. Although I do love myself a good espresso. So I think that's what you were saying, Chris, is that you kind of like the espresso. And yeah, it's a little better than the old one. I'll admit this. It's a little better. But yeah. I'm being on the forefront. I'm running in front of the critics. I'm being before the critics who say, "Ah, you took the idea of having coffee in your show name." No, no, I didn't. It's not that unique an idea. It's just this is my spin off of that. I again a proud consumer of the beverage. I don't know if we can see this without me spilling everything on my key. There we go. I drink it black the way it's meant to be. Right? It's not a coffee if you have 40 packs of sugar in there, okay? But anyway, that was a fun little sidebar. Thank you, Chris. Moving on. The Indiana Fever. Now, speaking of expectations and what's going on with the Indiana Fever, they lose 83 85. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that. They lose 83 to 85 to the Seattle Storm. And losing my voice here, which is good for a talk show. And they're now 0-5 on the season. And I Again, I try to offer something of a more nuanced take. Not sure if that's welcomed anymore in today's society. Um, I completely dispel this notion that the schedule was too hard, or that it's unfair, or that they're not setting Caitlin Clark up for success due to the schedule. First of all, it's the WNBA. Your pool of available teams to play on any given night is inherently more limited. So what was the WNBA supposed to do, right? You have 12 total teams. And now I hear what you're saying, right? The Las Vegas Aces, oh my goodness. The Las Vegas Aces, the New York Liberty are far and away the better of the two. But last night, the Seattle Storm, many circled that as the first potential game that she could win, that the Indiana Fever could win. And we see what we actually saw was why the expectations and this notion of Caitlin Clark already deserving to be on the Mount Rushmore, that she would come in and run the league. How it was just silly. It was just silly. She is doing well for a rookie, and I think we need to add that qualifier for a rookie, and it's entirely appropriate, and it's going to be a major accomplishment if at the end of the year she is far away the best rookie of this year. That's where the expectations should be for Caitlin Clark. The Indiana Fever, if they somehow magically got to 500, they would be ahead of the curb. Curb or curve? Not sure. Chris, help me out here. Is it curve with a V or curve with a B? I have no idea. But anyway, um, where was I going? Yes, they are probably not going to have a winning season. Why? Because they drafted number one for a reason. It's going to be hard. There are more established, more veteran teams, more cohesive teams at this moment in the WNBA. So we should, if and slash when they get to 10 wins, mark that on your calendar and say, wow, they achieved double digits on the year. This is awesome. That is that is the framing. That is where we should have viewed this team heading into the year. And for Caitlin Clark, it should the expectations, our reasoning, how we viewed her, it this year should have been something more along the lines of, okay, let's see how she adjusts from going to the college level to the pro level. Let's see how she adjusts from not always being the main and dominant ball handler, not always being the offense. Let's see how she adjusts from WNBA defenders. Let's see how she adjusts from not having the luxury of being able to shoot yourself out of a cold streak. So these are all things that I think a lot of people lost and were almost engulfed in, pun intended, the Caitlin Clark fever. Now, will she be overall fine? I think so. I think so. But Mount Rushmore, complete ludicrous. Complete ludicrousy. That she was going to run the league, also completely silly. And so, in that sense, I agree with, and this is me projecting, so I don't know. I think this is more or less what Charles Barkley and LeBron James are trying to say in their statements. I think that they're more or less trying to say, and I think LeBron James is looking out for Bronny James and Bryce James when they make the jump eventually. Well, I say Bryce James eventually because we don't know Bronny James making the jump right now. I think he's more or less looking out for when the media inevitably comes down hard on Bronny. And so this way he can say, I've been consistent. I have always said we need to let players grow and develop at their own pace and that there's too much over scrutinizing, which is why some have said, why hasn't LeBron come out like this before to defend other players. I think there's that added motivation which would somewhat explain it. Now, I could be wrong, but this is what this is how I view it. This is how I'm seeing it. And I think that's if that is what they were intending with their words, I more or less agree with it. But how it came off and what they actually said, completely different from what I just outlined. So that's what I think that they mean. That's where I think they were going with their words. But let's analyze what they actually said now. So Charles Barkley took the time to attack women specifically and more or less was saying that people were showing ungratefulness for what Caitlin Clark has done for the league. And that is something I completely disagree with. Only because this has been in the works for quite a while, right? Charter planes and the charter planes, no charter planes. This isn't a conversation that's been had only since Caitlin Clark. This has been in the works, especially because of other notable WNBA players having the same issue of being now too known and too popular. Where right, if the Los Angeles Lakers were to fly on Delta next week, that would bring complete havoc. Now I know I'm oversimplifying it, but what the point of what I'm right now trying to say is that this has been in the works for years now. Now, has Caitlin Clark possibly sped up this specifically? Maybe, but even that's probably being a little too generous. In fact, owners have been looking for workarounds this entire time. The only thing that they've been trying to avoid is getting fined. So I'm not, but for in his rant for Charles Barkley to credit this to credit the change in transportation to Caitlin Clark, just inaccurate, completely inaccurate. And in terms of the revenue, is Caitlin Clark providing a boost? Absolutely. Am I answering my own questions to make my points sound a little better? Yes. But the interest, the revenue, and the attendance has been on the rise for years with or without Caitlin Clark. And let's not forget, this isn't just the Caitlin Clark show in terms of rookies. This is a strong overall rookie class. Angel Reese, I've said this before, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. She is going to have an easier initial transition. Now we'll see long term who ends up having the better career. But initially, front court players are going to have an easier time when they make that jump from the college level of play to the pro level of play. That's just a fact. So Angel Reese, and Angel Reese also can't, this needs to be said. This can't go without saying. She has the personality, she has that presence, and she is doing what's needed off court where could she be the face of the league one day? Absolutely. And she too is being double and triple teamed at times and is still producing already at a high level. Cameron Brink, I think her comp is more to that her potential is more to that of an Anthony Davis. And what do I mean by that? Anthony Davis coming out of Kentucky, obviously more known for his defense, was limited on offense and had to grow his offensive game. So when I say Cameron Brink, to me looks similar to that of Anthony Davis, I'm not saying in terms of the athleticism and the towering ability to convert alley oops. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm saying in terms of the WNBA impact, similar to what Anthony Davis had with the Pelicans and now with the Lakers. So what do I mean more specifically by that? From day one, they were instant impact defenders. particularly at the rim. Why? Because they're front court players by the rim, deterring shots when not blocking them. You knew their presence and they used their length well from day one. But as time went on, they then developed their offensive game. And then they became lethal at both ends. So, strictly in that sense, strictly with that view, I think Cameron Brink has the potential to have an Anthony Davis like impact. But now, unlike other media heads, I'm not saying she's going to be the next Anthony Davis. I'm not saying she's going to be at the level of Anthony Davis. I'm saying if she continues to put in the work, if she continues to improve what she's already good at, that is a comparison that could be made down the line. But it's a wait and see kind of thing. Now, finally, what Charles Barkley is saying about Caitlin Clark and the other, I think he was a little vague and a little general, but what I think he really means is how some WNBA players and how some WNBA veterans have come after Caitlin Clark. And I think that's him misinterpreting what other WNBA legends, what other WNBA veterans are saying. And this is true regardless of the sport or the league. If you are a rookie, if you have had a lot of press, if you have been crowned as whatever, fill in the blank, chosen one term or next grade, or you belong at the Mount Rushmore, players in the league will instantly feel something. They will instantly say, she hasn't stepped, or he or she hasn't stepped a foot on the court, on the field, or you don't step a foot on the ice, right? Help me out, Chris. um, but they right the gist of what they will think of what they'll say is they haven't even seen what the pro level is like yet. How are we already anointing someone? How are we already saying someone is an all-star at this level before we've even seen them play against another professional in a game, in an actual game? So any of this hate, any of this malice, I don't think is that at all. It's more just that a sense of, hey, we've been putting in the work for a while now. We are great in our own rights, and let's first see how Caitlin Clark does for one full year. At the time, it was before we've seen her play in a game, but now, right now, it's let's just see how she does through the year, and she's doing well. I mean, she had 21, 7, and 7 last night. I think we can all agree, room for improvement. There is no one more supportive of the WNBA players and of Caitlin Clark than other WNBA players. And if she ends up being far and away up better and clearly above the level of competition of the WNBA, all of the critics are going to all of the current critics, they're going to be the first ones to say, yeah, Caitlin Clark, she's at that level. No one can touch her. WNBA players and veterans and former players are more than willing to give kudos when it's due, but it has to first be earned. So now, do I think that this is something where there's animosity? No, because they're not stupid. They know that Caitlin Clark 100% is bringing additional eyeballs. Caitlin Clark is bringing in more people. Caitlin Clark is going to help the upcoming media rights deals. They know that. But they also know that it's foolish to put all of your eggs in one basket, and they also know that it's foolish, like, what now this isn't probably gonna happen, and this hasn't happened, but they also know, what if Caitlin Clark just, for whatever reason, basketball-wise, maybe she has it, but maybe just mentally, she can't make the jump, she struggles. So what then? The WNBA collapses? No. The there's been a lot of work. from past years, from current players, from past players being done to help drive the league. And there are going to be more great players that come up through the ranks that will continue to drive the league. As I said before, if you're a pure fan of fundamental basketball, the WNBA is a better overall product than the NBA. And now the WNBA, they're not matching the NBA yet in terms of stars, in terms of household names, but I think that gap is narrowing. And so, for example, everyone knows Caitlin Clark. And will we see another Caitlin Clark? That's doubtful. But cumulatively, could we see more just household names where you say, "Oh yeah, I know this person. Oh yeah, I tune into whatever it is that they do on a nightly basis." That's a strong possibility. Oh, let's see. Jordan says with Inside the NBA dying next season, might as well empty those clips. Also waiting for jury duty. It's so Jordan, good luck. I told you what to say. I won't say it now, but I told you what to say so that you wouldn't have to go. I'm rooting for you, bud. Hang in there. Uh, but anyway, I think it's more that it's lacking a nuanced take of the WNBA players. They just want to, not just Caitlin Clark, they want Angel Reese to earn it. They want Cameron Brink to earn it. And by it, I mean the attention, the clout, the kudos, whatever you want to call it. It needs to just be earned on the court. And then they will be the loudest supporters. They will give the most flowers. And then in terms of leave the players alone, everyone should develop at his or her own play at his or her own pace. Valid. That's fair. And that would be great, I think, in a vacuum. But that's something of an unrealistic expectation nowadays. Instead, that's just one of many factors that can either potentially make or break a career, which is why some people were a little too soon to anoint Caitlin Clark and place her on that Mount Rushmore. But that's what I think. Let me know in the comments, just like what Chris did, just like what Jordan did. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? We already have one comment here on the Twitter. Jay Allen, I'm gonna butcher this. AJXE Mem says, like none of y'all said crazy stuff your last week at work. Yeah, not what I was really commenting on, my guy, at all. Yeah, not at all what I was commenting on, really. In fact, I said during the podcast that I kind of like when Charles Barkley goes off the rails a bit. so so not but appreciate you reaching out. Appreciate the follow. We are gonna get canceled here any day now. No, I'm kidding. All right, that's all I have for today. Chris, appreciate you tuning in. Jordan, thank you for tuning in, and Mr. J dash Allen AJXE Mem MEM. Appreciate you tuning in and not listening to what I had to say before commenting.